Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tap and Go podcast. Today we're joined by current Harlequins winger and former GB gymnast Heather Cowell. Heather, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
No worries. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm all good, thank you. All good, keeping well.
Perfect. So obviously, rugby is your main sport now, but to begin with, you're a gymnast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing gymnastics when I was about 6, 7, and that was my sport growing up. Really, I did do rugby as a mini, but when you get to that age where you have to split boys and girls, so I sort of knocked that on the head and just continued gymnastics. So I did that all the way up till I was about 20. I competed internationally from the age of 11. I think my first competition away was in Canada at the age of 11, and then continued to do that, which was really fun. Super cool experiences. Got to travel around the world as a kid, missing loads of school, which was always good. And I reached a good level. I was a junior world champion in 2017. It's really good.
So was competitive sport something that you always sort of looked to go into? Obviously from a young age you did gymnastics, so there's like a family history there. Obviously I think your brother plays rugby as well. He's at Doncaster Knights, so that's something you're always looking towards.
Yeah, from sort of a really early age, we've always been a really competitive family. I think especially being a twin, we competed in absolutely everything that we could. And we just grew up in that environment where I always wanted to be better than my brother. He always wanted to be better than me. We also have an older brother who's joined the competition as well. So I love being competitive. I think anybody who knows me will tell you I'm pretty competitive about all elements in life, not just sport. But yeah, I think it's good. It gives you a good drive, gives you a good purpose. So yeah, I'm all for being competitive.
And obviously you mentioned that you won gold at World Champs. Was that sort of the aim? Was that you sort of thought you'd got as far as you could go, and was that potentially maybe one of the reasons that you sort of went away from gymnastics and towards rugby?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to get a gold at World Championships. It was really, really awesome. And then I reached a senior level. I was competing internationally in a senior level, but I felt like I'd reached sort of my peak in that sport. You couldn't go to the Olympics with what I was doing. You have to do sort of all the elements of gymnastics, go to the Olympics. And I only did one. I just did tumbling, so I couldn't go to the Olympics. That was the highest level that I could reach. So I just decided a new challenge. One of my uni friends played rugby, and she just invited me down and said, "Come and give it a go. It's a good laugh," sort of thing. And I just sort of started going to rugby a bit more, going to gymnastics less. And gymnastics was a massive commitment. You sort of train 5 days a week. I'm missing lots of sort of schooling, university, to travel around and go to competitions and stuff. So it was a massive commitment, and I think I sort of knew that I wanted a new challenge and something new to get my teeth into, and rugby just sort of knocked on my door at the right time. So yeah, slow transition into it.
Obviously being a world champion demonstrates that you were very talented in gymnastics. Was there ever a thought to maybe change events, that maybe the Olympics could be a possibility?
Yeah, my gym, unfortunately, certain gymnastics clubs do certain disciplines of gymnastics, and unfortunately my gym just didn't do the Olympic disciplines. They did sort of the non-Olympic ones. And so I didn't really ever consider changing, purely because I would have had to move gyms and move coaches, and in gymnastics your coaches are pretty personal to you, and moving gyms is quite a big step. So I took it as it came. I really enjoyed my journey with it. And even if I did compete in a Olympic discipline, I guess there's nothing to say, I definitely would have gone to the Olympics. It's still really challenging and really competitive as well. So it wasn't something I ever thought I'd do.
And then obviously you said that it was a friend of yours who took you down to university rugby, and that's sort of where it all properly started for you. What was particularly made you think that it was rugby was something you were willing to pursue?
I just really enjoyed it. I obviously had played as a kid. I'm from Twickenham. I literally have been brought up, born and bred rugby, really. So I know the rules. I've thrown a ball about before. And I just really enjoyed the dynamic when I got down there. It was very much recreational rugby. It wasn't anything serious, nothing like Quins sort of thing now, but yeah, it was just a really fun group of people. I love being competitive, and loved playing sport again. I guess I'd never had that team aspect either. Gymnastics obviously is a very individual sport, and so going into a team environment was something that I really enjoyed. Was very new to me, but yeah, it made my experience at university much better. And then when I left university, I just got approached by one of the Quins coaches, and so I ended up coming down, just trialing it out and seeing how it went, and just went from there really. And obviously then it became a bit more serious because it was no longer sort of a university social team. It was very much playing with internationals and a bit more serious.
So please do correct me if I'm wrong, but I think so you went travelling after university, and I think after you'd done about half season of Harlequins, and as Ruben said that you'd had enough with serious sport. So was there firstly, is that right? And if so, what changed?
Yeah, I think I just wanted a break from I guess serious sport. I had not long obviously quit gymnastics. I'd only been playing at uni for half a year. And I always wanted to go traveling, and I think gymnastics was something that stopped me from doing so, because obviously you can't just stop for 6 months and pick it up again. I felt I was at the right time in my life to sort of go and have a break and explore the world a little bit. It made sense after university, because obviously I wanted to then start my career. So it was a good time. But yeah, I needed a break, fresh head, and came back ready to go again, and pick things up where I left. But I enjoyed the break, and I think sport is amazing, but it can be intense. So I think it's good to sort of take a step back once in a while and refresh yourself, and allow me to go again. I came back with more of an appetite to be competitive and to sort of apply myself to the sport.
So almost actually like a reset button for you.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And obviously being away, you sort of see different things. I always play in Fiji and New Zealand and stuff around people playing rugby, but it's all just social side of stuff, but just different aspects, isn't it? Which was really cool to experience.
And you mentioned, so obviously you grew up around Twickenham, so it's very much a rugby environment, and obviously Harlequins, Twickenham, it's all sort of one big thing. Was it always going to be Harlequins? Like, was that, if you got a choice of a team, was that them? Was it always going to be them?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I ever put too much thought into what club I'd play for, to be honest. I just, as I say, the coach sort of knew my university coach, and I ended up going down there. But yeah, I mean, I've always been a Quins fan. I've been going to Quins since I was a kid. We used to watch the games and run around on the pitch afterwards, like as sort of kids. So yeah, it would always have been my choice to go to Quins. I think I was just really lucky that opportunity kind of came up for me, because obviously there are other clubs around, but yeah, for me definitely Quins. It's always been my local team. So yeah.
And obviously, shortly after, one of the biggest moments for Harlequins women's rugby, at least, was the women's followed the men's in the big game 12. I remember I was actually there, and sort of like, what were your emotions leading into that game, and sort of how cool was it?
Yeah, it was an absolutely amazing experience. Even just to sort of go to Twickenham is a really cool experience. So to play there in front of so many people and such a big day was just really, really exciting. All my family came. They had a big box. I had lots of friends there, obviously being local. So it was just lovely to play, to have so much support, and it's just a showcase of where the women's game is going. It just being considered to play there is just phenomenal. And I hope that obviously in the future we can play there again. But it's just it was brilliant. And also to play, we don't often get to play European fixtures either. We obviously only play against sort of UK teams. So it was nice to play Leinster and play a different branch of rugby.
Do you think this was a very significant moment in the rise of the women's game? Do you think that they're sort of been almost put on the same pedestal as the men, at least on that day?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think we've got a long way to go. We're definitely not on the same sort of level as the men's game yet, but that's for various different reasons. And the men's game was where the women's game is now, many years ago. So we're going in the same sort of direction as they are and following the same footsteps. It will be a slow progress, you know, to get people to buy into the women's game, but we've seen the development over the past few years, and you know, getting invited to play at the big game was just such a phenomenal experience for all the girls, and it was brilliant to see so many new people watching the game, lots of people staying behind to support us, and I think hopefully over the years to come, more and more people will stick around to watch the game and get involved in the women's game, because the numbers are definitely growing, which is just so awesome to see.
And do you think sort of growing the women's game, is it sort of something that sort of requires like gradual, like everything sort of gradually getting better, or is there one aspect of the game as a whole, whether it be on the pitch or off the pitch, that you think would significantly make the game more attractive?
I think it's definitely going to be gradual, purely because we, as women, people will play better rugby the more time they have to put into rugby. So we see, you know, like lots of the girls are now professional. So the England team now professional. So you'll see them reach higher levels and be better, be fitter, be stronger, because they have all their time to dedicate to rugby, as sort of the whole of the men's Premiership do. So the more and more sort of money and facilities and time that become available for women to, you know, dedicate their lives and time to sport, that's only going to increase the sort of calibre of the teams and people playing. So I think the more and more that's invested into the game, the better the like standard of rugby is going to be, you know, and that obviously won't happen overnight. But you know, the girls are full time now, and there's more and more full time athletes coming into the game, so that's only going to grow the game. And once the standard gets better and skills get better, etc., it becomes more of an attractive game to watch, and then that will grow the crowd. You know, I think it's never going to happen overnight, but there's so many things that are happening which are positive, which is pushing the game in the right direction.
Yeah, so obviously more focusing on Harlequins this season. So you guys are top of the table. I'm pretty sure you're unbeaten. So everything's been going right for you. Is there anything in particular which you think just is the reason that you're doing so well and out ahead of everyone else?
Yeah, we've obviously had a good season. We've really gelled together as a squad, I think, which has been really, really lovely. I think in these weird, difficult times as well, it makes you appreciate sport and your teammates and all that sort of environment, where we haven't had that opportunity to sort of do much else. I think it's always like a breath of fresh air, everyone going to training. So I think we've just really appreciated it as well. We've got a new coach in who's been really, really instrumental into our success. He's changed a lot of our game plans and our structures, and he's sort of bringing in a fresh view from the men's game. So again, like we talk about the growth of women's, we've hired a new head coach who's always worked in men's sport, who's now coming in to bring his expertise into the women's game. And so he's growing us as a team and as a squad and as individuals. So yeah, we've got a really pitch on the pitch. We all ultimately want the same goal. Everyone's like really hardworking. We've got good team competition as well. You know, there's lots of good players down at Quins, so we have the ability to rotate our squad and everyone gets minutes in, which is really cool. And ultimately, competition amongst the squad just drives that standard one step further as well, which is always nice to see.
That's interesting. As he's a men's coach the men's game, do you think he personally has he had to adapt, or do you think there's some of the aspects from the men's game he's been able to bring to the women's game, given how much the standard's improving?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's probably had a lot of learning to do, in the sense that he's probably had to implement things slightly differently, and you know, some things that work for the men's game don't work for the women's game, and vice versa. But I think ultimately, yeah, he's absolutely done really well in bringing his sort of knowledge and expertise into our game, because we've changed a lot of our game based on his knowledge, and so far so good. So yeah, no complaints.
Alrighty, guys, it's that time again. Time to pay for the pints.
Today's podcast has been brought to you by our mates over at Team Blazers. A big shout out to them, the great British Blaze company, kidding you out for every match day social. Check them out now. And so obviously you, and I'm sure a few of the other girls in the squad, you're balancing a job on the side of playing rugby. And are there any times you found that bit overwhelming, that you're struggling to try and keep up the workload of rugby and elsewhere?
Yeah, definitely. It can get really overwhelming at times for sure. So I'm studying to do my chartered accountancy exams, which is a really long process. It takes like 3 years, 15 exams, and that's all sort of done. I do get to like study sport and stuff from my employers, but a lot of that study time is in my own time as well. So trying to juggle sort of training, extra training, weights, and studying, and then also now we're watching a lot more rugby, so you know there's a lot more analysis to be done, lots more videos to watch. So yeah, it can get overwhelming for sure, but I've got a great support network around me. Quins are really understanding in the sense that you know there's no expectations of if you've got a job, you don't have to be a trainee in the day, obviously, because you're working full time. So there's a good understanding of that, and the full-time girls are really supportive of sort of making sure that we keep up to date with anything that's new, because they're obviously there a lot more. But I enjoy having a career outside of sort of sport. I think it's really good to be able to focus on something else as well. And ultimately, unfortunately, rugby isn't in a position where it can support us to sort of, you know, buy houses and grow families and stuff like that. So we have to become self-sufficient and get a career. At the end of the day, we're still not in that position where we can where everybody can fund themselves through playing sport, unfortunately. Obviously that's the end goal. I think that would be an amazing opportunity, and I know that loads of the girls would love that as an opportunity, but yeah, we're just not there yet.
Yes, this is my next question. So obviously, I think the women's game in England, it's the top 28 players, I think, handed pro contracts. Is that something that you're looking towards, or is your accountancy something you're passionate about, would like to keep?
I'd love to have the opportunity to play rugby full time. That would be, of course, it would be amazing. Accountancy, something that can wait for sure. You know, you can do that at any age. And so, yeah, if that opportunity presented itself to me, of course, I'd, you know, absolutely take it. But yeah, just not in a position where that's sort of been presented to me. So just got to take what I can. And yeah, I enjoy playing at Quins. I still love playing there, and I actually enjoy playing with all the full-time girls as well. They've got, through them having the ability to play full time, you know, they've got so much knowledge and things that they can share with us. So it's great to play alongside those players, even though I'm not one of those players. It's great to play with them, and they're super helpful. But yeah, as I say, I like having my career on the side. My employers are really, really supportive in like rugby. So if I need time off for anything, then yeah, they're really helpful with that. So it's a good balance, but it can get a bit intense in time, but I do enjoy it. So.
And obviously, I think you've been in and around the England squad. You're yet to be officially called up, but you've been around the training squad. Is that something that you think is a possibility in the next couple of years to try and break into there?
Yeah, I'd love to. I try not to focus myself on too much of that. I like to just focus on my own game. But yeah, of course, I'd love to get you know, into the England side. That is my ultimate goal, of course. Yeah, the competition is intense, and yeah, just got to do what I do. You know, score tries, make breaks, and yeah, hopefully the opportunity will present itself in years to come. But yeah, just never know, do you?
You talk about focusing on your own game. That any areas in particular you're working on, which you think might just take you to that next level?
Yeah, I've been, in particular this year, I think I've been working on like coming off my wing and making breaks. You know, I sort of pride myself on backing myself around the outside, but I think work rate for a winger is so important. So I've been working on lots of my fitness and coming off my wing and making myself available to exploit opportunities, not just on my wing, but in and around the pitch, because I think that's that's an area that maybe I wasn't so good at. So that's something I've tried to work on this season, which yeah, it's been good.
Have there been any aspects of your gymnastics career which you've sort of been able to take into your rugby, which you think have helped with your game?
Yeah, I think sort of my like agility and power, I think, is definitely something that I have from gymnastics. Just I'm naturally just really powerful through sort of all the training that I've done as a kid. Tumbling is a power sport. It's called power tumbling, so it's all about being explosive and fast. And so yeah, I think I just add the little bit of aggression into it with rugby, and it allows me to sort of carry the ball well and make good ground in most carries and stuff like that. And then also just flinging yourself around. I feel like I know my limbs. I know where my limbs are, probably more so than most. But yeah, no, super lucky to have that grounding of muscle strength and things like that gymnastics teaches you.
Are there some things that you've been able to bring to the team that like sort of you could teach your teammates because of your background in gymnastics?
Not too much, really. I think everyone's, because obviously in rugby you've got so many different positions and stuff. We do have a muck about, we do headstands and things like that in training, and muck around. Like they're always winding me up to do backflips and stuff, but I think only a few people have seen that. But no, well, we have quite a sort of structured training program, so I don't really get too involved in other people's training.
Yeah, of course. And so I'm sort of interested. So obviously you had the 2017 with the Junior World Championships, and you played in big games, like we said previously, at Twickenham and so on. How does the difference in pressure change? Because obviously one being an individual sport and one being a team sport. Do you notice there's sort of like a different, almost like style of pressure, or how you deal with the pressure is different?
Yeah, I think gymnastics sort of, because it was me, and also in gymnastics there's no room for error. So in rugby you have 80 minutes. So if you drop the ball, if you get knocked into touch, if you miss a tackle, not ideal in any situations, but there's 79 other minutes that you can sort of make up for that. Whereas gymnastics is very much, if it goes wrong, the whole thing goes wrong, and also you compete a lot less. So you will work seconds, if that. And so I think I used to feel the pressure a lot more in gymnastics, purely because it had to go right on the day at the time. Otherwise, that was it, so all your hard work was for nothing, essentially. But I think because I competed, from you sort of learn how to deal with pressure, how your mind copes with things. Mental rehearsal is massive in gymnastics. So just, nights before competitions, lying in bed, sort of thinking, how do I do this, and going over things in your head was really, really big for me. And I do use elements of those in rugby for sure. But I think because it's a team sport, and because you have that 80 minutes, the pressure it's different pressure. I think it lasts longer, and obviously you feel more pressure in the game because you have time to think. Gymnastics, you don't have any time to think. It's just go, Whereas I think, you've got the pressure spread over 80 minutes, but you have your teammates around you to support you. So, you might not be having a great day, but your teammates are there to pick you up, and that's not something you necessarily had in gymnastics. It was all on you. So if you weren't having a good day, then nothing good was coming from that day. So I love playing in a team, because that very element, you can bring your teammates up when they're not feeling great, and they can bring you up when you're not feeling great. So yeah, it's just very, very different, I think.
Have you ever thought about potentially a gymnastic celebration for a try?
I mean, yeah, they ask me all the time to do that. I just think the S&C and physio would absolutely murder me if I did anything stupid. But yeah, maybe one day. We'll see. It has to be a big game, but yeah.
Score in front of a packed house at Twickenham, we expect to see something.
Yeah, exactly. If we get a packed house at Twickenham, I'll do it. No worries.
Heard it here first. Is there, so obviously you said you love all the girls at Harlequins, but are there any other girls that you would love a chance to play with, or is there a particular guy that you think, if the game was mixed, he would be an unbelievable person to play alongside?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many amazing rugby players. I think as a winger, of course, you're going to look up to people like Johnny May and stuff like that. Of course, they're amazing. But I think for me, I just, my teammates are just so awesome. They have such a caliber of experience around them. We've got Jess Breach plays from other wing. Got people like Rachel Burford in my squad who just has so much experience that I'm very content with my teammates. I don't want to wish them away, but yeah, I think I'd love to sort of go and play out in New Zealand as well. They've got bundles of experience over there, and their game is just such a high standard over there as well. So No, I don't think anyone in particular, but just as a culture as well, I think I'd quite like to head over there and play with some of those. But yeah.
And one thing we ask all our guests is sort of their favorite moment in their careers. And I guess most of our guests have only had a single career in a single sport, but I guess you having two, we'd obviously be open for either career, but what's been sort of your highlight so far?
Oh, okay. Got many highlights. But I don't know. I think, you know, from a sort of medal perspective, I think, yeah, winning world championships. But I think for me, my highlights are probably the ones that people don't see. So, you know, like you overcome an injury or something and you get back to fitness. And I think it's those sort of times and those really challenging times that you know, it could be something really small, like, you know, you did the first press up when you hurt your shoulder or something. But I think all those are sort of individual battles and challenges for me, and overcoming those is probably my like highlight in the sense that it hopefully highlights, you know, the determination and grit and everything that supports all of those sort of wins and medals that you achieve. But yeah, I think an ultimate highlight would be winning gold at the World Championships and standing on a podium and hearing the national anthem is just amazing. So, and that's obviously rugby, we don't do that, but in gymnastics, that's how it goes. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
And looking to the future, I guess 2 more aims, then probably to get some more medals with firstly Harlequins, and who knows, hearing the national anthem with the England women as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to win a Prem with Quins, so I'm hoping this year's the year. So yeah, fingers crossed it's a good year to come.
Well, we wish you best of luck. Heather, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting for us, and you're our first solo female guest and hopefully first of many. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. And thanks everyone else for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Come on!